We always talk about a web page being accessible or inaccessible, but that's not the whole story, is it? Hey guys, it's Cody from IT, and on May 18th, we are going to be celebrating Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So I want to talk to you guys about what exactly is accessibility and why calling something inaccessible is an oversimplification. Today on Tech Tip Tuesday, the 3 parts of accessibility. Instead of thinking of accessibility as a feature that a product or a piece of content has, it's more accurate to think of it as a relationship between a product or piece of content and the user of that product or content. Let's think of an example. Let's say that a deaf student is trying to access a video that the rest of their class is watching. Now that student may not be able to hear what the video is saying, so the teacher turns on closed captioning. Well, that video has closed captioning, so it's accessible, right? Check. Well, what if that student, that deaf student, struggles to read? Is that video now inaccessible? Think about it. In that example, that video might be deemed as accessible, but it is not accessible for that student. That student and that video do not have an accessible relationship. So what do we need in order to develop that accessible relationship? Well, part 1 of accessibility is the content. Now, this is what we typically think about when we talk about accessibility, right? Does that product or content support the user's access to it? Usually, we break this down into checklists or standards. But on a very basic level, if the content is delivering information in a way that the user cannot possibly access, then yes, it is inaccessible. But again, that's not the whole story. Part 2 of accessibility is the tool. Let's say that a user is on a website that has been deemed accessible by our guidelines, but they're either using a tool or a software that isn't designed very correctly or is just not the best tool for the job. Is that content inaccessible to the user? Well, yeah, it is. That accessible relationship is not there. So regardless of how well or how poorly content is designed, we need to make sure that users are set up with the best tools for the job. That means either recommending the best tool for the job, or even better, teaching our users how these tools work so that they can select their own tools when faced with a particular task. Part 3 of accessibility, the user. Now, when we talk about accessibility, we often forget this part. If a user is sitting in front of an accessible piece of content, they have the best tool for the job, but they don't know how to use that tool to access that particular content, are they going to be able to access that content? No, they are not. That accessible relationship will not be there. Global Accessibility Awareness Day is typically a day that we use to advocate for accessibility standards from companies that make content or products. But on this day, it's also important to remember that we, as instructors, have a responsibility towards accessibility as well. We have a responsibility to ensure that our learners not only have the best tools for the job, but they are prepared to use them as well. Without those 2 pieces, that accessible relationship cannot happen. So on May 18th, we at IT encourage you to advocate for those accessibility standards. But we also encourage you to reflect on your own contributions towards accessibility, and to remember that an accessible relationship is dependent on more than just a set of standards. See you next time.